Good morning. Today's Bible reading is Genesis 40 through 43. Let's get into it. And we are using the Message Bible. As time went on, it happened that the cupbearer and the baker, the king of Egypt, crossed their master, the king of Egypt. Pharaoh was furious with these two officials, the head cupbearer and head baker, and put them in custody under the captain of the guard. It was the same jail where Joseph was held. The captain of the guard assigned Joseph to see to their needs. After they'd been in custody for a while, the king's cupbearer and baker, while being held in the night, both had a dream on the same night, each dream having its own meaning. When Joseph arrived in the morning, he noticed that they were feeling low, so he asked them, the two officials of Pharaoh who had been thrown into jail with him, "What's wrong? Why the long faces?" They said, "We dream dreams and there's no one to interpret them." Joseph said, "Don't interpretations come from God? Tell me the dreams." First, the head cupbearer told his dream to Joseph. "In my dream, there was a vine in front of me with 3 branches on it. It budded, blossomed, and the clusters ripened into grapes. I was holding Pharaoh's cup. I took the grapes, squeezed them into Pharaoh's cup, and gave the cup to Pharaoh." Joseph said, "Here's the meaning. The 3 branches are 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will get you out of here and put you back to your old work. You'll be giving Pharaoh his cup just as you used to do when you were his cupbearer. Only remember me when things are going well with you again. Tell Pharaoh about me and get me out of this place. I was kidnapped from the land of the Hebrews, and since I've been here, I've done nothing to deserve being put in this hole." When the head baker saw how well Joseph's interpretation turned out, he spoke up. "My dream went like this. I saw 3 wicker baskets on my head. The top basket had assorted pastries from the bakery, and birds were pecking at them from the basket on my head." Joseph said, "This is the interpretation. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will take off your head, impale you on a post, and the birds will pick your bones clean." And sure enough, on the 3rd day, it was Pharaoh's birthday, and he threw a feast for all his servants. He set the head cupbearer and the head baker in places of honor in the presence of all the guests. Then he restored the head cupbearer to his cupbearing post. He handed Pharaoh his cup just as before, and then he impaled the baker on a post, following Joseph's interpretations exactly. But the head cupbearer never gave Joseph another thought. He forgot all about him. 2 years passed, and Pharaoh had a dream. He was standing by the Nile River. 7 cows came up out of the Nile, all shimmering with health, and grazed on the marsh grass. Then 7 other cows, all skin and bones, came up out of the river after them and stood by them on the bank of the Nile. The skinny cows ate the 7 healthy cows. Then Pharaoh woke up. He went back to sleep and dreamed a second time. 7 ears of grain, full-bodied and lush, grew out of a single stalk. Then 7 more ears grew up, but these were thin and dried, out by the east wind. The thin ears swallowed up the full, healthy ears. Then Pharaoh woke up. Another dream. When morning came, he was upset. He sent for all the magicians and sages of Egypt. Pharaoh told them his dreams, but they couldn't interpret them to him. The head cupbearer then spoke up and said to Pharaoh, "I just now remembered something. I'm sorry. I should have told you this long ago. Once when Pharaoh got angry with these servants, he locked me and the head baker in the house of the captain of the guard. We both had dreams on the same night, each dream with its own meaning. It so happened there was a young Hebrew slave there with us. He belonged to the captain of the guard. We told him our dreams and he interpreted them for us, each dream separately. Things turned out just as he interpreted. I was returned to my position, and the head baker was impaled. Pharaoh at once sent for Joseph. They brought him on the run from the jail cell. He cut his hair, put on clean clothes, and came to Pharaoh. I dreamed a dream, Pharaoh told Joseph. Nobody can interpret it, but I've heard that just by hearing a dream, you can interpret it. Joseph answered, Not I, but God. God will set Pharaoh's mind at ease. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, In my dream I was standing on the bank of the Nile. 7 cows, shimmering with health, came up out of the river and grazed on the marsh grass. On their heels, 7 more cows, all skin and bones, came up. I've never seen uglier cows anywhere in Egypt. Then the 7 skinny, ugly cows ate up the first 7 healthy cows. But you couldn't tell by looking. After eating them up, they were just as skinny and ugly as before. Then I woke up. In my second dream, I saw 7 ears of grain, full-bodied and lush, growing out of a single stalk, and right behind them, 7 other ears, shriveled, thin, dried out by the east wind, and the thin ears swallowed up the full ears. I've told all this to the magicians, but they can't figure it out. Joseph said to Pharaoh, Pharaoh's 2 dreams both mean the same thing. God is telling Pharaoh what he is going to do. The 7 healthy cows are 7 years, and the 7 healthy ears of grain are 7 years. They're the same dream. The 7 sick and ugly cows that followed them up are 7 years, and the 7 scrawny ears of grain dried out by the east wind are the same, 7 years of famine. The meaning is what I said earlier. God is letting Pharaoh in on what he is going to do. 7 years of plenty are on their way throughout Egypt, but on their heels will come 7 years of famine, leaving no trace of the Egyptian plenty. As a country is emptied by famine, there won't be even a scrap left of previous plenty. The famine will be total. The fact that Pharaoh dreamed the same dream twice emphasizes God's determination to do this and do it soon. So Pharaoh needs to look for a wise and experienced man and put him in charge of the country. Then Pharaoh needs to appoint managers throughout the country of Egypt to organize it during the years of plenty. Their job will be to collect all the food produced in the good years ahead and stockpile the grain under Pharaoh's authority, storing it in towns for foods. This grain will be held back to be used later during the 7 years of famine that are coming on Egypt. This way the country won't be devastated by the famine. This seemed like a good idea to Pharaoh and his officials. Then Pharaoh said to his officials, Isn't this the man we need? Are we going to find anyone else who has God's Spirit in him like this? So Pharaoh said to Joseph, You're the man for us. God has given you the inside story. No one is as qualified as you in experience and wisdom. From now on, you're in charge of my affairs. All my people will report to you. Only as king will I be over you. So Pharaoh commissioned Joseph. I'm putting you in charge of the entire country of Egypt. Then Pharaoh removed his signet ring from his finger and slipped it on Joseph's hand. He outfitted him in robes of the best linen and put a gold chain around his neck. He put the second-in-command chariot at his disposal, and as he rode, people shouted, Bravo! Joseph was in charge of the entire country of Egypt. Pharaoh told Joseph, I am Pharaoh, but no one in Egypt will make a single move without your stamp of approval. Then Pharaoh gave Joseph an Egyptian name, Zaphenath-Paneah. God speaks and he lives. He also gave him an Egyptian wife, Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, the priest of On, Heliopolis. And Joseph took up his duties over the land of Egypt. Joseph was 30 years old when he went to work for Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. As soon as Joseph left Pharaoh's presence, he began his work in Egypt. During the next 7 years of plenty, the land produced bumper crops. Joseph gathered up the food of the 7 good years in Egypt and stored the food in cities. In each city, he stockpiled surplus from the surrounding fields. Joseph collected so much grain, it was like the sand of the ocean, that he finally quit keeping track. Joseph had 2 sons born to him before the years of the famine came. Asenath, daughter of Potiphera, the priest of On, was their mother. Joseph named the firstborn Manasseh, forget, saying, God made me forget all my hardships and my parental home. He named his second son Ephraim, double prosperity, saying, God has prospered me in the land of my sorrow. Then Egypt's 7 good years came to an end, and the 7 years of famine arrived, just as Joseph had said. All countries experienced famine. Egypt was the only country that had bread. When the famine spread throughout Egypt, the people called out in distress to Pharaoh, calling for bread. He told the Egyptians, go to Joseph, do what he tells you. As the famine got worse all over the country, Joseph opened the storehouses and sold emergency supplies to the Egyptians. The famine was very bad. Soon the whole world was coming to buy supplies from Joseph. The famine was all over, and it was bad. When Jacob learned that there was food in Egypt, he said to his sons, why do you sit around here and look at one another? I heard that there is food in Egypt. Go down there and buy some so that we can survive and not starve to death. 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to Egypt to give food. Jacob didn't send Joseph's brother Benjamin with them. He was afraid that something bad might happen to him. So Israel's sons joined everyone else that was going to Egypt to buy food for Canaan, too, was hit hard by the famine. Joseph was running the country. He was the one who gave out rations to all the people. When Joseph's brothers arrived, they treated him with honor, bowing to him. Joseph recognized them immediately, but treated them as strangers and spoke roughly to them. He said, where do you come from? From Canaan, they said. We've come to buy food. Joseph knew who they were, but they didn't know who he was. Joseph, remembering the dreams he had dreamed of them, said, you're spies. You've come to look for our weak spots. No, master, they said. We've only come to buy food. We're all the sons of the same man. We're honest men. We'd never think of spying. He said, no, you're spies. You've come to look for our weak spots. They said, there were 12 of us brothers, sons of the same father in the country of Canaan. The youngest is with our father, and the one is no more. But Joseph said, it's just as I said, you're spies. This is how I'll test you. As Pharaoh leaves, you're not going to leave this place until your younger brother comes here. Send one of you to get your brother while the rest of you stay here in jail. We'll see if you're telling the truth or not. As Pharaoh lives, I say, you're spies. Then he threw them into jail for 3 days. On the 3rd day, Joseph spoke to them. Do this, and you'll live. I'm a God-fearing man. If you're as honest as you say you are, one of your brothers will stay here in jail while the rest of you take the food back to your hungry families. But you have to bring your youngest brother back to me, confirming the truth of your speech, and not one of you will die. They agreed. Then they started talking among themselves. Now we're paying for what we did to our brother. We saw how terrified he was when he was begging us for mercy. We wouldn't listen to him, and now we're the ones in trouble. Reuben broke in. Didn't I tell you? Don't hurt the boy. But no, you wouldn't listen, and now we're paying for his murder. Joseph had been using an interpreter, so they didn't know that Joseph was understanding every word. Joseph turned away from them and cried. When he was able to speak again, he took Simeon and had him tied up, making a prisoner of him while they all watched. Then Joseph ordered their sacks be filled with grain, that their money be put back in each sack, and that they be given rations for the road. That was all done for them. They loaded their food supplies on their donkeys and set off. When they stopped for the night, one of them opened his sack to get food for his donkey. There at the mouth of his bag was his money. He called out to his brothers, "My money has been returned. It's right here in my bag." They were puzzled and frightened. What's God doing to us? When they got back to their father Jacob, back in the land of Canaan, they told him everything that had happened, saying, "The man who runs the country spoke to us roughly and accused us of being spies. We told them, 'We are honest men and in no way spies.' There were 12 of us brothers, sons of one father. One is gone, and the youngest is with our father in Canaan." But the master of the country said, "Leave one of your brothers with me. Take food for your starving families and go. Bring your youngest brother back to me, proving that you're honest men and not spies. And then I'll give your brother back to you, and you'll be free to come and go in this country." As they were emptying their food sacks, each man came on his purse of money. On seeing their money, they and their father were upset. Their father said to him, "You're taking everything I've got. Joseph's gone, Simeon's gone, and now you want to take Benjamin. If you have your way, I'll be left with nothing." Reuben spoke up, "I'll put my 2 sons in your hands as hostages. If I don't bring Benjamin back, you can kill them. Trust me with Benjamin. I'll bring him back." But Jacob refused. "My son will not go down with you. His brother is dead, and he is all I have left. If something bad happens to him on the road, you'll put my gray, sorrowing head in the grave." The famine got worse. When they had eaten all the food they had brought back from Egypt, their father said, "Go back and get some more food." But Judah said, "The man warned us most emphatically. You won't so much as see my face if you don't have your brother with you. If you're ready to release our brother to go with us, we'll go down and get you food. But if you're not ready, we aren't going. What would be the use? The man told us, you won't so as much as see my face if you don't have your brother with you." Israel said, "Why are you making my life so difficult? Why did you ever tell the man you had another brother?" They said, "The man pressed us hard, asking pointed questions about our family. Is your father alive? Do you have another brother?" So we answered his questions. How did we know he'd say, "Bring your brother here"? Judah pushed his father Israel. "Let the boy go. I'll take charge of him. Let us go and be on our way. If we don't get going, we're all going to starve to death. We and you and our children too. I'll take full responsibility for his safety. It's my life on the line for his. If I don't bring him back safe and sound, I'm the guilty one. I'll take all the blame. If we had gone ahead in the first place instead of procrastinating like this, we could have been there and back twice over." Their father Israel gave in. "If it has to be, it has to be. But do this. Stuff your packs with the finest products from the land you can find and take them to the man as gifts. Some balm and honey, some spices and perfumes, some pistachios and almonds, and take plenty of money. Pay back double what was returned to your sacks. That might have been a mistake. Take your brother and get going. Go back to the man. And may the strong God give you grace in that man's eyes, so that he'll send back your other brother along with Benjamin. For me, nothing's left. I've lost everything." The men took the gifts, double the money, and Benjamin. They lost no time in getting to Egypt and meeting Joseph. When Joseph saw that they had Benjamin with them, he told his house steward, "Take these men into the house and make them at home. Butcher an animal and prepare a meal. These men are going to eat with me at noon." The steward did what Joseph had said and took them inside. But they became anxious when they were brought into Joseph's home, thinking, "It's the money. He thinks we ran off with the money on our first trip down here. And now he's got us where he wants us. He's going to turn us into slaves and confiscate our donkeys." So they went up to Joseph's house steward and talked to him in the doorway. They said, "Listen, master, we came down here one other time to buy food. On our way home the first night out, we opened our bags and found our money at the mouth of the bag, the exact amount we paid. We've brought it all back and have plenty more to buy more food with. We have no idea who put the money in our bags." The steward said, "Everything's in order. Don't worry. Your God and the God of your father must have given you a bonus. I was paid in full." And with that, he presented Simeon to them. He then took them inside Joseph's house and made them comfortable, gave them water to wash their feet, and saw to the feeding of their donkeys. The brothers spread out their gifts as they waited for Joseph to show up at noon. They had been told that they were to have dinner with him. When Joseph got home, they presented him with the gifts they had brought and bowed respectfully before him. Joseph welcomed them and said, "And your old father whom you mentioned to me, how is he? Is he still alive?" They said, "Yes, your servant our father is quite well, very much alive." And they again bowed respectfully before him. Then Joseph picked out his brother Benjamin, his own mother's son, and he asked, "And is this your youngest brother that you told me about?" Then he said, "God be gracious to you, my son." Deeply moved on seeing his brother and about to burst into tears, Joseph hurried into another room and had a good cry. Then he washed his face, got a grip on himself, and said, "Let's eat." Joseph was served at his private table, the brothers off by themselves and the Egyptians off by themselves. Egyptians won't eat at the same table with Hebrews. It was repulsive to them. The brothers were seated facing Joseph, arranged in the order of their age, from the oldest to the youngest. They looked at one another wide-eyed, wondering what would happen next. When the brothers' plates were served from Joseph's table, Benjamin's plate came piled high, far more so than his brothers, and so the brothers feasted with Joseph, drinking freely. And that is it for today's Bible reading. As always, get in touch with God today, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye.